So today we're going to talk about introduction to business and should not be construed as legal advice. Is there a clicker? Here. And aim it here? Yeah. Okay, so the three things we're going to go over today are business names, how to select a business entity, and business entity structures. Does anyone want to file their LLC today in session? Maybe? Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to segregate out time for us to actually file it online, so you don't actually have to hire anybody or use an online service to do it. You can do it yourself. You would get online and you would actually create an account with SOS Direct. There's the website address. I did not make it up. It's complicated to remember, but this is what the page looks like. And you're going to go right here. If you currently do not have an account, you may submit a request for an SOS account because you need an SOS account to file online. I would recommend you file online because right now, if you mail it or you fax it, the turnaround time is 70 to 72 business days. Whereas if you file it online, it's generally about 8 to 10 business days. So, and that's the fastest way. It's even faster than if you walked into the Secretary of State's office in Austin. And then here's what you'd fill out. Basically, you would fill out your account name, your address, and you should use an address that corresponds with the credit card you're going to use to file online, and then your credit card information. That's it. Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? Usually people are actually on their devices, so I walk around. Does anyone have any questions? It's pretty simple. Good? All right, let's go. All right, so let's talk about business names. So today we're going to talk about how to choose a business name, how to check for name availability in our state, because in our state, only one LLC or only one corporation can have the business name in our state. So you want to make sure your name's available, and then I thought we might do a practice example if we have time. Since nobody's may not actually file in session, we might just skip that. Okay, case example. What $194 billion company is this? Early names before settling on the final household name: Luna.com, Kibble.com, Replay.com. Any ideas? Google. Anybody else? Netflix. I know, right? So Mark Luna, who was the founder of Netflix, really loved his dog. He was a big dog lover, and his dog's name was Luna. So that's why he was going to do Luna.com or Kibble.com. The moral of this story is you want to pick a name that not just resonates with you, but resonates with your customers, right? No one's going to think, hey, I feel like streaming a movie or a TV series. Let me go to Kibble.com. So you want a name that connects with your customers. Okay, next example. What international superstore is this? IKEA, exactly. So can you imagine if this guy had decided to use his own name? Like, he'd never sell any furniture because it's just too hard for people to spell and remember, right? So you want your business name to be easy to remember. Okay, so an effective business name tells you who your client is or who you are, what your client does, how your client does it. It's easy to remember. It shows how you're different from others, and it piques the interest of your client's market. So how a name can attract certain clients. 3 proposed names for a massage business: Medical Therapy and Massage Clinic, Clouds Above Massage Spa, Speedy Massage Center. Now see how this name attracts a certain type of client. So Medical Therapy and Massage Clinic, that's probably going to attract people who have had car accidents or personal injuries. They're going to get referrals from doctors and lawyers, right? Clouds Above Massage Spa is probably targeting women with discretionary income who may get not only a massage, but maybe get their hair done or their nails done or facials. Speedy Massage Center might cater more to the busy professional who just wants to be in and out. exact same service, massage services, but entirely different clientele just by the name of the company. So the name of the company can actually be really important. Okay. So people ask me all the time, is this business name that I'm suggesting okay? And actually, that's a really challenging answer because multiple laws affect business names. We've got our Texas Business Organizations Code, our Assumed Name Code. We have the Anti-Cyber Squatting Consumer Protection Act, which that deals with website names, false advertising and deceptive trade practices laws, and then we have trademark laws, which kind of alludes to what you're talking about with the restaurant in New York, who also has, there's a restaurant in Texas with no S, right? So we have it on the federal level, we have it on the state level, and then we have what's called common law trademarks, which means people who don't actually register their trademark with the state or federal government, but people know them so much, they actually have a common law right. Think about it in terms of, like, by analogy, people are common law married. They didn't actually go to the courthouse and get their marriage certificate, but people think they're married. So there's all these different laws that affect business names. And then what makes it really complicated is, there's no one database to search. So if you, depending on what law you're checking for, you're going to go to a different database, and none of the databases talk to each other, unfortunately. So when you're checking for good business names, there's multiple places you ideally would want to look. So how to check a business name for preliminary availability as a Texas LLC or corporation. You can do an informal search at the Texas Comptroller's website, and you go to entity search and you type in the name that you think. If it comes back with results, you can look at the results and see if there's another active company with the same name. The other way you can do it is you can check with the Texas Secretary of State. And so if you had created your SOS account, you could go here and search the database. It's $1 per name to search the database to see if it is available. Or you can call the number. Right now, the wait times are really, really bad. Like every time I call, it's like I'm between 30 to 40th caller in line, but it is, other than the time that you're sitting there in your minutes, it's free. Or you can email them and ask them if the name is available. Generally, it takes about 48 hours for them to return a response. But those are ways that you can check for your name in Texas. And then other places where you may want to search, free or minimum charge, the USPTO for federal trademarks. Generally on the internet, if you do like a Google search and the name pops up with similar types of businesses, then you know it's probably taken. The domain name, the WHOIS databases, state trademark registries. Unfortunately, again, each state has their own database, so you'd want to go state by state. Trade publications, and then local telephone yellow pages and other business directories. Okay, so how to select a business entity. Okay, so a lot of times people come into my office and they're overwhelmed by all the different structure choices they have, right? And a lot of old-time lawyers will say, well, here are all your choices, now you pick. And I don't like that choice. But then sometimes lawyers say, think about these different factors here, and you guys can kind of pick from there. And the reason why it says page 330 to 332 is I'm actually an adjunct law professor, so I use some of these slides to teach my students, and I have to go through the book and explain to them this. But again, I don't think this is really very helpful to you as an entrepreneur. It just doesn't have to be this way. So let me show you how I do it, and I'm going to give you two client examples. This is LaToya. She's one of my clients. She is a full-time teacher. She's a single mom, and she's a business owner. And she helps lower-income women by helping them obtain jobs. She does amazing work with resumes and job placements. And we use this methodology that I'm about to share with you to select her business, which is a Texas public benefit corporation where she makes a profit and she does social good. And this is another of my clients. These are all their locations. They're a very large manufacturing company. They're actually the largest in the world. And we use the same methodology for them. It doesn't really matter, like whether you're one person or you're super big, this methodology applies either way. Okay, so as an example, I'm going to go through this really quickly. This is my family fitness business example, and it was 5 business owners. They were all a family, and they were super buff, and you're never going to want to wear a tank top around them. They're so buff. And they had all these different business ideas, and they were all so excited. They were all talking over each other. I have this idea, and what about this? And then I want to go here, and then I want to open a location here. And they went to 3 other lawyers, and all the lawyers said to them, you guys are not ready. And I thought, you know what? They actually were ready. I think they just were very disorganized, and so people thought they weren't. But I thought they were. So here's what we did. I said, I want you guys to dump out all your business ideas and do a brain dump. And just put it all on paper so we can start organizing. And then for each business idea, I want you to assign a core value. Is it for profit? Do you want to just make money? Do you just want to do social good and be a nonprofit? Or do you want to be a hybrid in between? And then the third part would be we would actually select a structure. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to go really fast. So they had individual adult training, equipment they wanted to build, apparel, an after-school program for at-risk youth, a fitness center location for the kids, and then a second fitness center location for the adults. So once we decided on this, then we said, okay, we're going to go through the executive summary of legal entities, which I will share with you. But basically, we broke it down into core values. For-profit means you just want to make a profit, and there's nothing wrong with that. A nonprofit is to serve a greater good, and then a social enterprise is to make a profit while serving a greater good. And here's where we ended up. Adult and individual training was going to be for-profit. Equipment was going to be a hybrid, that they were going to sell the equipment and part of it was going to go to nonprofit proceeds. Apparel was going to be for-profit. The after-school program for kids obviously was a nonprofit. Then their fitness center location for the kids was going to be nonprofit. And then the final fitness center location for the adults was going to be for-profit. Does this kind of make sense? Like assigning a core value. Okay. So success for this family was to determine a long-term vision, even if it seems unrealistic, create a plan, complete it in parts, and then select the proper business entity. So once we assign core values, then I could say, okay, select your entity based on the core value. So if it was a for-profit, we only looked at the red choices, right? We only looked at the for-profit corporation, the LLC, the series LLC, a partnership, or a trust. If they wanted to do a nonprofit, like the after-school program for at-risk youth, then we only looked at the blue bubbles, the nonprofit corporation, the unincorporated association, and the trust with the nonprofit purpose. Makes choosing a lot easier. And then if they were the hybrid, their only 2 choices really are the social purpose corporation and the public benefit corporation. The Texas LLC is technically a choice, but it doesn't give you any advantages that these other 2 do, and we'll get into that if anyone's interested. But it makes selection so much easier. So instead of saying, here are all the structures you now pick, now that you have core values, you have very little, you know where you're going to go. It's a lot easier. Okay. And then if we have any veterans in the audience, right now we have a law that as of January 1st, 2022, if you're a veteran-owned business, there's a special process you can go through where Texas will waive your filing fee to set up your own business, and that they'll waive your Texas franchise margin taxes for up to 5 years that you're in business. So if you are a veteran or you know a veteran, there's a special law to help veterans start businesses. So in my family fitness business, where I told them, I said, listen guys, there's 5 of you, but let's just concentrate on one business at a time. Where do you guys want to start? And where do you think they should start? Any ideas? The for-profit, I agree. They wanted to start with apparel. And I said, guys, this apparel they had was a special suit that needed a prototype. It wasn't like branded t-shirts. And I said, guys, to set up the prototype and all that is very expensive. And then to create it for manufacturing purposes, like your seamstress has to have muscle memory. So that first lot you're going to throw out as non-conforming goods. It's very expensive. Don't start there. I said, start with individual adult training, right? There's 5 of them. They could all train individuals. They could train individuals without really any overhead. They could go to their house. They could meet at the gym. They could go to a park, right? Really easy to get started there. And then they were going to go to apparel, equipment, fitness center location for the adults, and then start the after-school program, right, once they had fees. Here's what actually happened, which was so interesting. They started with individual adult training, and their clients said, you know, we really love this. We'd love to have this for our kids. So they ended up here, the after-school program, which they had as partially for-profit for clients who could pay, and then it gave them the funding necessary for them to start their at-risk youth program. And so then they ended up here with the first location for the kids. Totally different plan from where we started, but because we had planned it out in parts, they just moved the pieces around. So they were able to be very successful, and they had a 5-year plan, and they were here by year 2. All right, I'm going to go through this business entity structure section pretty quickly because I think a lot of it you can read on the internet. So by default, when you start a business, you are a sole proprietor, so that means you are your business. And does everybody know what a sole proprietor are? You are your business, so you hold all the assets and you hold all the liabilities. But when you create a legal entity, you become your entity, your corporation or your LLC becomes a separate person in the law. So it holds all your business assets and it holds all your business liabilities. So when somebody wants to sue your business, they're suing your LLC or your corporation. They're not suing you as an individual. So that's how you avoid personal liability. Okay. So when you're a sole proprietor, that's the first set of pictures. You are your business. And then when you create a business, your business is like a baby, right? Your business is now being held by your baby. And I tell people all the time, having a business is like having a child. You think about it, you create it. Labor and delivery seems very painful. And once the baby's out, you think, oh, okay, I'm done. But then baby needs more things. You need to take care of baby. You lose sleep over baby. You have to spend more money on baby, right? But babies are also very rewarding, and they are joyful, and they bring you so much love and so much satisfaction. They make you a better person. And like a real baby, like a human baby, you want your business to move out of your house by the time it's 18. Okay. So just as a reminder, you want to think about the core values. Okay, so I'm going to skip the slide on general partnership unless anybody would like to know more about partnerships. Okay, so in Texas, there's very little regulatory filings for a general partnership, which is, some people really like that. But the bad part about being a general partner, where you're not filing anything, is that you're 100% liable for the acts of your partner. So as an example, I'm aiming the wrong way. Let's say I go into business with Joe Bob, and we're going to start a barbecue restaurant because I love barbecue. And Joe Bob goes to the bank and says, hey, I'm going to get a loan for $1 million in the name of the barbecue restaurant. And then Joe Bob takes my money and goes off to, the Cayman Islands and puts it away in a trust that no one can touch. The bank can come to me and say, hey, Dodge, where's my money? I loaned you $1 million. And I can say, hey, I have this nifty partnership agreement that a lawyer drafted up that says debts are 50-50. And the bank can come back on me and say, nah, in Texas, a general partnership, you are 100% liable for the acts of your partner. You still owe us $1 million. If you want to go and get more, then you have to go sue Joe Bob in the Cayman Islands. That's why I don't like a general partnership. Now, we do have a limited partnership, which you would file in Texas, but that's a very expensive form. So you'd have a filing fee of $750, and then for each limited partner, you would file, I think it's $200 per partner, and then you have to have at least $200,000 segregated off for potential claims, or you have to have insurance. And so generally it's going to look like this, where the general partner takes much of the liability and the limited partner only has 1%. But that limited partner is really supposed to be more passive. So it's not the greatest of forms. The more popular form is the for-profit corporation, in which you can be co-owners and you can still be taxed as a partnership, because that's two separate things, but you would have limited liability. And you wouldn't be 100% liable for the acts of your partner. If you want to file that, it's Texas SOS Form 201. I'm going to skip that. Oh, sorry. The other most popular choice is the limited liability company, which is like a corporation. It gives you limited liability, but it gives you much more flexibility in terms of taxation. It's very similar to a corporation, which provides really good protection, but there's a little less internal formality, and all that really means is you don't have to do an annual meeting with minutes. I suggest people do it anyway. I think that's a really good idea, but you technically don't have to. And then if you want to file a LLC, it's Texas SOS Form 205, which you have at your desks if you wanted to fill it out, and it's a $300 filing fee, and you can still be taxed as a partnership. I think this is a better option than actually being actual general partnership.
So while you gave them the forms to file an LLC,
Yeah.
they could also go on an account if they created it on the Wi-Fi at the beginning of it and file it there. And how many days does it take to do it by mail?
70 to 72 business days.
Right.
Don't do it. Don't do it that way. Do it online. It's much faster. Okay. Then we have another form in Texas called the Series LLC. I'm not going to explain it all here because it's a lot of legalese. I'm going to show you in pictures. So this is the LLC when you have a regular LLC, and the red bubble says plaintiff sue. So that's when someone sues you. So it would attack all the assets and liabilities in your LLC. With the Series LLC, it's broken down. So you'll have a parent LLC, and then you'll have series or sub companies. So if somebody wants to sue, for instance, Series A, then they're only attacking the assets in the actual sub company. They can't attack any of the assets in the parents or the other series. And we've had a change in the law in June, that with the series, June 1st, as of June 1st, 2022, there are two ways that you can create series. They have protected series, and then they have registered series, which actually make it easier for you to actually do things like get lines of credits and bank loans. So there's a whole separate process that we're not going to get into today, but if you want to ask me questions about it later, with the series, it's actually supposed to help you financially. So what about a client with multiple businesses? And this is not exact because I don't want to disclose the client, but this is a client who traditionally was suggested that she create a separate LLC for each type of business. So she has a florist business, a call center business, and an Etsy product business. So traditionally this is what you would do before the Series LLC. So she'd pay a $300 filing fee for each LLC, and then there would be separate tax filings for each, potentially or not, depending on how she decided to be taxed. Someone had suggested to her that she do the Series LLC, which would be awesome for her, She would own the parent, and then Series A would be florist, Series B would be the call center, Series C would be the Etsy company, So if the plaintiff sued the florist for some reason, then all the other assets would be protected. Seems like a great idea, but they didn't think about the client's work style. The client's work style is actually all hands on deck. So if it is Valentine's Day weekend It doesn't matter whether you got hired to answer phones. You're getting in the delivery van and you're driving roses all across town, right? So basically, I suggest you keep your standard LLC and just have DBAs, because the beauty of the, the beauty of the series is that you keep all of your assets separate, right? So it protects you, right? All the liabilities are separate, but when you mix everything up, like she was mixing up employees and revenue, you destroy the separation, so you destroy the protection as a result. So depending on your work style, this is actually easier for her just to put all the employees into one standard LLC and then let the employees do different things depending on what's hot. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? So you don't want to just pick based on what you see on the internet or what other lawyers suggest. You want to think about, this is my business, how do I actually like to work? Otherwise, you're spending a whole bunch of time and money on stuff you're never going to use. Okay, so very quickly, I want to review what a nonprofit corporation is. This is the most common way to start a nonprofit. Is you would create a nonprofit corporation, and you would traditionally choose one of these nonprofit purposes. And I know here we probably all want to be for-profits, but I'm showing you this so that you can understand what the hybrid is all about. So if you decide you're going to start a nonprofit, you do need to create, most people want to create a 501c3. I'm mentioning this because if you are interested in doing that, there are free legal services to start a nonprofit at Texas A&M University Law School, in which I'm actually a professor. We actually take on people for free to start their nonprofits, and I get to use you guys as my clients to actually train my law students. So they provide all the services for free, and they get to learn how to actually handle a real case with real clients. So it's a really great deal. So if you're interested or you know somebody who wants to start a nonprofit, please send them my way. Okay, I'm going to skip that. So I say that and all to introduce to you social enterprises. Social enterprises are for-profits with generally a societal good component baked in. So it's a legal dual mandate. So it's run basically for tax purposes. It's very much like a for-profit, but we also have advantages related to the nonprofit world. Let me show you what I mean. So in Texas, we have two hybrid options. We have a social purpose corporation, and then we also have a public benefit corporation. If you're in this world at all, sometimes you hear it as a benefit corporation or a B Corp, which is not 100% the same, but close enough that you kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about. And the reason why I love these types of entities is I actually own two. So I own the first Texas social purpose corporate law firm in the state of Texas, and then I was also the first to file for the Texas Public Benefit Corporation. So I actually know how these things work, like on a real everyday level. Okay, so advantages to the social enterprise is it satisfies social entrepreneurs, but without the limitations of a nonprofit. You can actually own the business, unlike a nonprofit. You're not required to be transparent with finances and operations like nonprofits, but you could if you wanted to do. There's less tax reporting and other paperwork than a nonprofit, and then you can get certified as a veteran-owned business or a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business, and then it has all the advantages of a traditional a traditional for-profit. You can avoid personal liability, you can potentially decrease your insurance premiums, you can legally minimize tax obligations and decrease your risk of an IRS audit. It gives you a professional image, and it gives you the option of owning and thus selling your business. It also provides marketing advantages, worker retention advantages. It can help you with investors, and it actually, if you're the owner, it can actually decrease your liability to shareholders and investors. Why it really matters is funding. So generally in this world, nonprofits have a bucket of funding that they would go after, and for-profits have a bucket of funding they would go after. With the social enterprise, you can actually dip into both sides of the bucket. I can tell you from experienced that once I started my social enterprise, I actually had people come to me and actually ask me how could they help, which that never happened to me as a for-profit, even though I was basically doing the same volunteer work that I was doing as a for-profit. So it's actually very advantageous in terms of funding. It also is advantageous in terms of grants. What people don't realize, even if you're a for-profit, is that many grants are available to for-profit organizations and small businesses, even individuals, which would be your sole proprietors. I can tell you as a social enterprise, because I have the nonprofit purpose baked into my legal filings, it has given me an unofficial leg up when I bid for grant funding. Okay. Do people want to walk through how to file an LLC? Yeah? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, I'm going to skip all of this. Very quickly, though, I'm going to say I do have a checklist on how to maximize your legal protections when you set up an LLC or a corporation, and that is at my website, dodgelegal.com. It's a free download if you're interested. And then finally, we've got 5 minutes left for questions, but if you do have more questions after this, you can join us for our Step Up program. There's the website to sign up. The next date is July 19th at 10 a.m. And if you type in the coupon code New Year, you get it for $1. And basically, it's an interactive session on Zoom. We started with 10 to 15 minutes of training where I take a legal document and show you how to fill it out and how to use it in your business. For 10 to 15 minutes, I've done things like created a Texas sexual harassment policy, which applies to all businesses that have more than one employee or more. So if you've started your business and you are an employee, you're subject to that law, you should have a policy in place. I create the policy, you can download it, and then I review it with you. And then the rest of the time, I answer any questions that you have about whatever we've discussed or anything else that you have related to business. It's a really great place to get your answers to the questions that you have without spending a lot of money. Because, and this is why I have the picture, sometimes we have this one question, and it's such a small question, but it stops us from moving forward. And so if you get the answer to the question, you move forward. And I think if you do incremental small steps, you actually get a lot farther in your business than if you take it like in big chunks, because getting over that next hurdle can be very daunting and it'll slow you down for months and months. But answering a few small questions every month really keeps you moving.